Welcome to Romance Files. Please like this video and subscribe to Romance Files. Let's begin. It started with a single sentence. I'm going out tonight. I might not be back until tomorrow. She said it as she buttered her toast, as if she were telling me she had a late meeting or was stopping by the grocery store. I paused my coffee mug halfway to my lips and turned my gaze to her. What? My voice was calm. Too calm. She took a casual bite of her toast and glanced at her phone, her fingers scrolling through something, a faint smirk on her lips, arrogant, shameless. I'm going out tonight, she repeated. She met my eyes now, bold and unchallenged. I don't know when I'll be back. Maybe tomorrow. That maybe was what did it, that tiny smug afterthought thrown in as though I was supposed to be okay with this. She continued before I could respond, as if this was just some simple rational discussion between adults. Look, it's not about you, it's about me. I'll be thinking I got married too young. I never really got to explore. It's unfair to spend a lifetime with just one person when there's so much out there to experience. Society forces us into these rigid expectations. It's unnatural. She sighed, playing the victim, the woman who had everything, a husband who adored her, a life most people dream of, and she was standing here justifying her upcoming betrayal as some kind of personal growth journey. I set my mug down. So you're telling me to my face that you're going to sleep with another man? She flinched just a little, then quickly recovered, putting on an annoyed expression like I was being overdramatic. It's not about sex, I interrupted, my voice sharp. For the first time, her confidence wavered. She swallowed, then sighed. Fine, yes, I want to sleep with someone else. I need to. I need to know what it's like before it's too late. But listen, it doesn't change anything between us. If anything, it'll make our marriage stronger. I'll be a better wife, more passionate, more devoted to you. She actually believed what she was saying, and that's what made me realize just how far gone she was. She thought she had me figured out. She thought I would argue, maybe get upset, but eventually accept it. She had no idea what was coming. I took a deep breath, letting the moment stretch, letting her believe she was winning. Then I spoke. I'd rather not. Her smirk faded. What? I leaned back in my chair, calm, unaffected. I'd rather not let my wife sleep with another man. Her eyes narrowed. She didn't like that. She was expecting anger, desperation, jealousy, but instead, she got cold indifference. You don't have a choice, she said, her voice sharper now. I just smiled, then said, neither do you. And just like that, the first crack appeared in her armor. She didn't expect resistance. She thought she held all the cards. She was about to learn the hard way. I don't play fair. She left that night just as she had planned, but while she was gone, I got to work. I didn't drink myself into a stupor. I didn't sit in bed crying over the woman who had thrown away everything we had. No, I planned. Step 1. Destroy her safety net. Bank accounts frozen. Every single joint account locked. Credit cards canceled. The ones in my name linked to mine declined. Savings drained. She had forgotten that I was the one who managed her finances. The house legally belonged to me. She had no claim. The car was registered under my name. By the time she came home, she would have nothing. But I wasn't done yet. Step 2. Let her think she still has control. I didn't message her, didn't ask where she was, didn't beg, didn't call, didn't give her the reaction she wanted. Let her have her night because it would be her last. Sunday evening, she strolled in like she owned the place. She looked rough, messy hair, smudged lipstick, dark circles under her eyes, exhausted but smug. Hey, she greeted casually, dropping her bag by the door. Guess I lost track of time. I didn't respond. I was at the grill, tending to a perfectly cooked ribeye steak. The smell filled the air, rich, mouth-watering. She walked closer, her eyes drifting to the food. Would you mind cooking one for me? She asked, smiling slightly. I turned my head, letting her see the coldness in my eyes, and then, with deliberate precision, I spoke the words that would haunt her forever. I'd rather not. She blinked, her face fell, and in that moment, she knew she wasn't in control anymore. I was, and I was just getting started. Her smirk was gone now, her confidence shaken. She stood there, staring at me, processing, trying to piece together why something felt off. You're still mad, she finally muttered, sighing as if she were exasperated with me. I get it, you're upset, but can we talk about this like adults? I turned the steak over, ignoring her. The grill hissed, the rich scent of caramelized meat filling the air. She folded her arms. I mean, come on, are you really going to act like a child over this? I finally looked at her, my expression unreadable, letting her squirm. What do you want me to say? I asked calmly. I don't know. Anything. Yell at me, argue, be mad. Just don't act like this. It's creepy. I took my time cutting into the steak, testing its doneness. Perfect. Then I picked up my plate, my glass of wine, and walked inside. I didn't say another word. I didn't have to. She was already spiraling. I could hear her moving around the kitchen later, opening the fridge, the cabinets. Then why are my credit cards not working? The panic in her voice was delicious. I took another sip of wine, flipping through a book as I sat in the lounge. A moment later, she stormed in, angry, confused, desperate. Did you cancel my cards? I didn't look up. You don't have cards, I said simply. She blinked. What are you talking about? Her voice cut off. I could see her mind working, the gears grinding, as she realized I had frozen my savings. Where's my money? I turned the page. Gone. She stared at me, silent, processing. You froze my accounts. I'd rather not pay for your little adventures. Her breath hitched. Now she was scared. You can't do that, she snapped, her voice rising. That's illegal. No, it's not. I finally set the book down and leaned back in my chair, watching her with amusement. She was unraveling. You forgot, didn't you? I used to manage our finances. Before we got married, we signed a prenup. You wanted to prove you weren't after my money, remember? Her mouth opened and closed. That contract made it very clear that in the event of infidelity, you get nothing. I smiled, slow, calculated, cruel. And guess what, sweetheart? You just admitted to sleeping with another man. She turned pale. This isn't happening, she whispered. Oh, it's happening. Her hand shook. I could see it now, the fear creeping in. I need to call someone. Your phone plan's canceled. It was under my name too. My car, also mine. Check the title. She staggered back like I had physically struck her. You can't just take everything from me, she screamed. I raised an eyebrow. Funny. That's exactly what you tried to do to me. Her chest heaved. She looked around the room as if searching for an escape. There wasn't one. Not anymore. A long silence stretched between us, then finally she collapsed on her knees. I made a mistake, she whispered, her voice shaking. I was stupid. I just thought I needed something different, but I see now. God, I see it now. Please, please don't do this. I stood, walking toward her. She looked up at me, eyes wet with tears. I love you, she choked out. Please just give me a chance to make this right. I crouched down, tilting my head, then I said the words she would never forget. I'd rather not. She packed her bags that night. She had no choice, no money, no home, no life. I watched from the doorway as she stood outside, lost, broken, destroyed. Where will I go, she whispered. I shrugged. Not my problem. Her eyes filled with tears. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Then, without another word, she turned and walked into the night, and I closed the door for good. The divorce filed, her reputation shattered, her friends abandoned her, and me? I thrived. Dinners, dates, laughs, happiness. She was just a ghost of my past, a lesson learned. Because in the end, some betrayals are unforgivable, and some people simply don't deserve forgiveness. The house was silent after she left. No more footsteps echoing down the hall, no more forced conversations at the dinner table, no more fake laughter, just peace. And I reveled in it. The first night after she was gone, I sat on the couch with a glass of whiskey, staring at the door where she had walked out. No anger, no regret, no sadness, just satisfaction. I won. She thought she had all the power, all the control, but she never realized she was playing chess with the wrong man. The messages started 2 days later. Hey, I know you're mad, but please let's talk. Hey, I'm sorry. I messed up. I see that now. Just one conversation, please. I read them, smirked, and ignored them. 3 days later, she showed up at the house. I watched through the window as she stood on the porch, shifting her weight from foot to foot, looking lost. She knocked. I didn't answer. She knocked again, louder. I took another sip of whiskey and turned up the music. After a few minutes, I heard the frustrated sob she let out before walking away. Good. Let her feel it. Let her drown in the consequences of her own actions. By the end of the first week, the messages changed. You're really going to do this to me? I was wrong, okay? But you can't just throw me away like this. You're cruel, heartless. I should have left you years ago. You're nothing without me. I laughed at that one. Nothing. I was thriving while you were out there struggling, drowning in regret. I was building something better. By the second week, the messages slowed. By the third, they stopped. She was starting to realize there was no coming back from this. Words spread fast. She had no job, no home, and no one wanted anything to do with her. The same friends she thought had her back, gone. The guy she thought would welcome her with open arms, used her and tossed her aside. She was sinking, and I was watching from a distance, enjoying every second of it. A month passed, then one night she called. I saw her name flash on my phone and almost didn't answer, but then curiosity got the better of me. Hello? Silence. Then her voice, small, broken, defeated. I have nothing, she whispered. No one, no money, no place to go. I don't know what to do. I leaned back in my chair, smiling. And what does that have to do with me? A choked sob. Please, I know I hurt you. I know I was selfish, but I'm lost. You chose this, I cut in, my voice calm, final. I gave you everything. You threw it away. That was your decision. She sniffled. I just want to come home. I paused, letting the silence stretch. Then, in a voice so cold it could have frozen hell itself, I whispered, I'd rather not. And then I hung up. That was the last time I ever heard from her. A few months later, the divorce was finalized. She left town, vanished, nothing but a bad memory. And me, I moved on. I thrived, better, happier, stronger. Because in the end, some betrayals are simply unforgivable, and some people aren't worth saving. After I hung up on her, I expected her to try again, to beg, to plead, to try and force her way back into my life. But she didn't. I later found out why. She had hit rock bottom. She bounced from couch to couch, relying on so-called friends who quickly got tired of her drama. The men she thought would take care of her, they used her and threw her away. She went from luxury to nothing, from being my wife to being homeless. And every time I thought about it, I felt nothing. She deserved it. The first time I went out after she was gone, I expected to feel something. Sadness, regret, a sense of loss. But instead I felt free. I laughed. I enjoyed myself. I lived. For the first time in years, I wasn't trapped, and God, it felt good. I dated, nothing serious at first, but then I met someone. Someone who wasn't a liar, someone who wasn't selfish, someone who looked at me like I was the only man in the world, and that's when I knew I had truly won. It was 1 year later when I saw her again. I was walking downtown, hand in hand with the woman I had fallen for, and then I saw her. She was standing by a cafe window, staring inside like she was starving. She looked older, weary. Then finally she turned. Our eyes met and her face went completely pale. She swallowed, visibly shaking, and then she walked toward me. "You came here to gloat," she asked softly, standing beside my table. I smirked. "I came to see if the rumors were true." She flinched, her fingers tightening around the notepad she was holding. "So are you happy?" I tilted my head. "Should I be?" She exhaled sharply, looking away. "I hate this life," she admitted. "I messed up, okay? I lost everything, but I've changed." I said nothing. She hesitated. "I know you moved on," she whispered, "but part of me hoped maybe I could fix things." I let the words settle, then I leaned in slightly, my voice low. "You can't fix what's already dead." Her breath caught, tears welled in her eyes. "So that's it?" she asked brokenly. I smiled. "That's it." And then I stood up. I dropped a $100 bill on the table, more than enough to cover my coffee. "Keep the change," I murmured, and then I walked away for the last time. That was the final chapter. She faded into the background of life. She was nothing more than a forgotten regret, and me? I was free, happier, stronger, unstoppable. Because in the end, some betrayals are simply unforgivable, and some people aren't worth saving. Her presence in my life was officially gone, legally, emotionally, financially, but in the back of my mind, I sometimes wondered, where is she now? What was left of her? Not out of regret, not out of longing, but because there was something satisfying about watching someone destroy themselves, and she had done that beautifully. I heard whispers through mutual acquaintances. She had no stable job. She was moving from place to place. She had tried dating, but it never lasted. Why? Because she was now damaged goods. She had lost everything, and no one wanted to pick up the pieces. I, on the other hand, had rebuilt. My career was better than ever, my personal life even better. The woman who had once been my wife was a fading memory because I had found someone else. A woman who didn't betray, a woman who didn't lie, a woman who knew my worth. And for the first time in years, I wasn't just surviving, I was truly living. One night, months later, a friend brought up my ex in conversation. "You won't believe what happened to her," he said, leaning forward, smirking. "Tell me, she's working at a diner, one of those rundown places outside of town. She's a waitress now." I blinked, then I laughed. She, the woman who once sneered at normal jobs, the woman who thought she was too good for anything less than luxury, now a waitress? Oh, the irony. I had to see it for myself. The next evening I drove to the diner. I walked in, taking a seat near the back, and then I saw her, hair tied back, a faded, ill-fitting uniform. She was cleaning tables. She hadn't noticed me yet. I watched, fascinated, as she moved with exhaustion. She looked older, weary. Then finally she turned. Our eyes met, and her face went completely pale. She swallowed, visibly shaking, and then she walked toward me. "You came here to gloat," she asked softly, standing beside my table. I smirked. "I came to see if the rumors were true." She flinched, her fingers tightening around the notepad she was holding. "So are you happy?" I tilted my head. "Should I be?" She exhaled sharply, looking away. "I hate this life," she admitted. "I messed up, okay? I lost everything, but I've changed." I said nothing. She hesitated. "I know you moved on," she whispered, "but part of me hoped maybe I could fix things." I let the words settle. Then I leaned in slightly, my voice low. "You can't fix what's already dead." Her breath caught, tears welled in her eyes. "So that's it?" she asked brokenly. I smiled. "That's it." And then I stood up. I dropped a $100 bill on the table, more than enough to cover my coffee. "Keep the change," I murmured, and then I walked away for the last time. That was the final chapter. She faded into the background of life. She was nothing more than a forgotten regret, and me, I was free, happier, stronger, unstoppable. Because in the end, some betrayals are simply unforgivable, and some people aren't worth saving. Her presence in my life was officially gone, legally, emotionally, financially. But in the back of my mind, I sometimes wondered, where is she now? What was left of her? Not out of regret, not out of longing, but because there was something satisfying about watching someone destroy themselves, and she had done that beautifully. I heard whispers through mutual acquaintances. She had no stable job. She was moving from place to place. She had tried dating, but it never lasted. Why? Because she was now damaged goods. She had lost everything, and no one wanted to pick up the pieces. I, on the other hand, had rebuilt. My career was better than ever. My personal life was thriving. The woman who had once been my wife was a fading memory, and I was living my best life.